Hello everyone and welcome back to Kobean History. In today's video of medieval professions, we will be having a look at chests and chest construction throughout the medieval times as well as the Renaissance. So to tie this in with the medieval professions theme, the person who would make chests could be a carpenter, furniture maker, joiner, but the most specific term for a chest maker is an Arkwright. As we will see later, an ark is a type of chest. We will start by talking about the importance of chests and their place in history. The chest is considered the most ancient form of furniture, and the first known chests dates back to around 3000 BC in ancient Egypt, being made from wood and woven reeds. It was one of the most common forms of medieval furniture. They were frequently listed in the wills and death rolls of wealthy nobles, and often numbered in the hundreds. Chests, which could serve as both furniture and luggage, were among the most important articles of furniture in any household, and the chest in turn formed the base and inspired a variety of other forms of furniture which developed in later ages, such as the box chair, desk, cabinet, chests of drawers, and more. In the times of sparsely furnished rooms, where homes still consisted of a large central hall, chests had a number of functions, of course as storage, but also as sitting areas and even sometimes beds. With that I mean they would sleep on top of the chest, not inside of it of course. Chests containing the most valuable possessions are often kept in the bedchamber, standing side by side or at the foot of the bed, as this is the most secure part of the house. The broad family of chest types can be split into two. One group is chests designed for travel and transportation, and the other are static chests to store things in the house. We'll have a look at the differences between them. Traveling chests often had hipped or curved lids to shed water and were often covered in waxed leather to improve their weather resistance further. Chests intended for static storage usually had flat lids, which would make them more useful as they could also double as seating or a side table. These chests were also a showpiece in most homes, with decorations carved in them. On the other hand, with chests designed for traveling, extensive decorations are rare, as they would be easily damaged. Another distinction is that stationary chests tend to be footed. Designed to sit permanently in a specific location, footed chests are ideal for normal storage, since they keep their contents away from damp floors and out of the reach of vermin. Transport chests would not be footed, as these feet could get in the way and the benefits would not outweigh the extra hassle, as the contents would only reside in it for a relatively brief period. Oak was the preferred type of wood of medieval chests, which it also was for most other medieval furniture. In France, walnut was a particularly common material for chests as well. Poplar or pine could be used as well, and several softwood chests survive from what is now Germany. In addition to the wood, chests would also, depending on the chest type, contain a decent amount of iron, which was used in the hinges, locks, and also to add extra strength and support to the joints of the chest. The interior of the chest could also vary on its use. Chests designed for linens or other soft objects would have a very smooth or sanded interior, and chests made for heavy equipment or weapons would have a more coarse interior. As with many medieval artifacts, chests were often extensively decorated. The decoration of a chest might be a simple standardized design, mass-produced by a single workshop, but decoration could also be unique to a single chest, with personalized designs carved on specific areas. The Furthe chest, for example, shows a number of unique features. The back of the chest, where the hinges are attached, is much more heavily decorated than the front, where the lock plate was. One end of the chest is heavily carved and the other end is left rough, showing that this chest was designed for use in a specific place, probably in a workshop or a guild hall, where the heavily decorated back would be facing the customer, the less decorated front would be facing the shopkeep, and with one end not being decorated situated against a wall. Now I'll go over more specific chest types. Chests can be split into two general classes as we have covered before, the stationary chests and the transportation chest. Within these two groups there are even more types, however, ranging from the simplest types to more complex constructions which developed following improvements in joinery techniques or from social changes influencing their utility and design. We'll start with the travel or transportation chests. One of the oldest designs is the basic Dugout Chest, which was common between around the 9th to 12th century. It is one of the simplest chests to make, as the Dugout Chest requires no joinery. They were made out of a log with the appropriate size, reasonably free of knots, which would then be roughly squared and hollowed out. These might also be sometimes referred to as trunks, and it's an obvious nod to the three trunks from which they were shaped. The end result was a very heavy and cumbersome chest. This design dates back to Anglo-Saxon times, but a few surviving examples in Britain show that chests like this were still being made well into the Renaissance. Since it is a legless design, carved decorations would not be common, but iron straps were also used in its construction, and they seem to have served both the use of strengthening the chest as well as a place to add decorations. Next comes the box, which is still a simple design, one we still use today. This flat-lidded travelling chest is constructed with a single board on each side and a lid on top. The boards are butted against each other and nailed together. Since these are pretty weak joints, often simple iron straps are also used to reinforce the joints. The standard is a deserved name for this type of chest, as it is the design you'd probably think of when you hear the word chest. The term standard dates back to at least the 15th century, where they were referred to as such in inventory records. These were very common and are considered the best type of travelling chest, and you can consider them as the cargo containers of their day. Like the box, its bottom is a simple and legless design, but standards were a lot bigger than the usual box, and also had a curved lid, often slightly overlapping on the sides, which allows it to shed rainwater during travel. Additionally, they were sometimes covered in leather to further improve its resistance to weather. The standard also uses nails to attach the boards together, and therefore it generally also makes heavy use of metal strappings to reinforce it. As it is a travelling chest, it is also usually undecorated. Now we go over to the footed chests, starting with the six-board or slab-ended chest. This perhaps is the most common household chest, probably because it has the simplest design, and were particularly common from the 9th to the 16th century, but continued to be used in later ages as well. 5 flat boards make up the bottom and the sides, with another flat board forming the lid. But what sets this one apart from the box chest we saw earlier is that it has 2 sideboards which extend out towards the bottom to form legs that raise the chest off the ground. Because the legs are part of a single sideboard, they are also sometimes called slab legs. Generally, the side pieces are also simply nailed to the end pieces, but the bottom piece is attached with a simple wooden joint. More complex and durable joinery existed from the end of the Viking period, but the six-boarded chest would have still been much easier and cheaper to make, which explains why they stayed popular for such a long time. From surviving examples we can determine that there was quite a bit of variety between these as well, as they can be undecorated or highly decorated with paintings or carvings. Some are also extensively covered with metal strappings, but others show little metalwork. The Viking chest is very similar to the six-board chest, the main difference being that unlike the simple overlap used in the six-board chest, the Viking chest has both panels interlocking and overlapping each other, with nails being used to secure them together in both directions. Although this is better than the simple lap joint of the six-board chest, the resulting joint is still not that durable, and metal reinforcing straps are used here as well. Viking chests are usually made to be a good height for seating and may have been used as rowing benches in Viking warships. Even though they are footed, many Viking chests were also used as travelling chests, so these chests could have also sometimes had curved lids to shed water. Over time, joinery techniques advanced. This saw the simple nailed six-board chest develop into the Hutch chest, first appearing around the 13th century and becoming the dominant type in the 14th and 15th centuries. The Hutch, instead of nails, features a tongue and groove design with pegged joints, which are more durable. No longer made up of a single side plank, the Hutch style chest adds extensions on the corners to create 4 legs. The chest lids are usually flat but could be slightly angled as well. Because of its sturdiness, the Hutch design required little to no additional reinforcements, leaving the faces of the chest available for carving decorations. So most of the surviving examples of Hutch-style chests are extensively carved, and even the feet were decorated. The Hutch, while being more expensive to produce, was also seen as more fashionable, which saw it rise in popularity among the higher classes. By the 16th century, the panel chest, which had a design that is lighter than the Hutch but just as durable, emerged, and the Hutch soon fell out of style. Before we go over to the panel chest, I want to cover some other variations of the Hutch style chest. The ark is an early variation of the Hutch. Few examples survive, but it appears to have been one of the crudest designs of its age. The main differences from the common Hutch is that they have an arched lid with raised phalanges at either end. Its feet were often made of riven timbers, attached by pegged mortise and tenon joints, and it also uses a less secure type of hinging mechanism. The basic design seems to have changed very little over the hundreds of years they were used, from the 13th century until around the 17th century. The plinth was considered one of the most sophisticated and ornate types of chests in the later Middle Ages. It's also based on the Hutch, the main differences being that its feet are masked by a plinth. Due to the plinth's contact with the ground, it suggests that this chest would have been placed on tiled or wooden flooring, free of litter. By looking at the quality of the design and carvings of surviving examples, it can be concluded that the plinth chests were held in high esteem and were prized possessions. The carvings are generally set out in individual scenes, separated by carved buttresses, and armorial bearings are frequently included in the chest's decoration as well. As mentioned earlier, the panel chest was developed around the 16th century. The panel chest evolved from the Hutch, which it soon outcompeted and replaced as well, due to the panel chest being of similar strength but lighter in weight. Where the Hutch had its side panels made out of singular boards, the panel chest consists of frames into which thinner, lighter panels were inserted. The panel chests are usually extensively carved, often with a linen fold carving, which was a popular design at the time, and the panels itself also formed a great canvas for decorative scenes. Now I'll just go over a brief timeline of the use and decorations of these chests. So before the 13th century, both the 6-board chest and Viking chests still dominated. Decorative features included some low relief carving in the wood, and the main decoration comes from paint and decorations on the reinforcing ironwork. In the 13th century, hutches have become popular, decoration of the reinforced straps are still widely used, and carving is chiefly limited to arcading and chip carving as well as painting, and it started to become common to have your heraldic design also being carved on the chest. During the 14th century, carving designs became more complex, with scenes being carved into the sides of the chests, replacing more generic decorations. And improvements in joinery also meant that less and less iron straps were needed to reinforce the chest. The 15th century is the height of the chest carvers' art designs, with fantastic decorative ornamentations as well as carved scenes from folklore or religious traditions. During the 16th century, panel chests came to dominate, and designs such as the linen fold pattern became increasingly popular as well. Thanks for watching, I hope you've enjoyed. If you want to see more about medieval professions, the playlist will be on screen right now, or if you're interested in history as a whole, you can check out my channel to find a wider variety of topics. I'd like to thank my patrons for their support, especially my $25 patrons, Parker Dye and G. David.